Association with iValue Solutions, wherein we will be delving into array of topics within the field of cybersecurity, starting from the letter A till Z. By the way, to introduce myself, my name is Iqbal Qureshi. I am a manager B2B operations from CXO Junction. So talking about a brand CXO Junction, it is a platform for enterprise leader to come and discuss the evolving scene of cybersecurity and risk management. In order to facilitate these kinds of discussion, we partner with many subject matter experts. Likewise, today we have partnered with iValue to discuss on the topic of breach attack simulation. From CXO Junction, we have Mr. Gaurav Batra, who is the founder and CEO of Cyberthreat and CXO Junction. This is the first time in the history of cybersecurity industry that we are proud to announce two first ever initiatives. Firstly, we will be covering spectrum of topics in the field of cybersecurity from A to Z. So that means this is the second session wherein we are covering the letter B. Secondly, we are offering once in a lifetime opportunity to one lucky attendee. That's right, a sleek, stylish Royal Enfield motorcycle awaits the attendee who attend a minimum of 15 sessions in this series. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and get ready to learn and earn exciting gifts in all the session, wherein 3 lucky winners today will be getting Cyberthreat Gold membership, and 1 lucky winner of Fortune round will win a gift. Any guesses? I can see some people whispering over here, temperature bottle. No, 1 lucky winner today will win one OnePlus smartphone. So don't miss the opportunity to stick with us till the end. We will be having an amazing fireside chat also at the end. By the way, to introduce our association partner, iValue InfoSolutions Pvt Limited. iValue InfoSolutions Pvt Limited is a premium technology service and solutions aggregator which adopts a consulting approach for enterprise digital transformation around application lifecycle management to address emerging business needs in hybrid multi-cloud model covering capex and opex needs. They have served over 6,000 plus customers across industries vertical through 900 plus partners and direct alliance with 65 plus breeds of OEMs. From iValue, we have Mr. Mitish Chitnavis, he's the CTO, and we have Mr. Rakesh Singh, he's the head post sales at iValue InfoSolutions, who is going to be the speaker for today's session. And our solution partner for today's webinar is Arete. So introducing Arete. Arete is a global cyber company whose mission is to transform the way organizations prepare for, respond to, and prevent cybercrime. They are industry leaders in cyber incident response business, having worked on thousands of matters since their inception in 2016. From Arete, we have Mr. Shrikanta Prasad. He is the Senior Sales Director at Arete. Now, I would like to hand over the stage to today's speaker, which is Mr. Rakesh Singh. So over to you, Mr. Rakesh.
Thanks, Iqbal, for a wonderful introduction.
Most welcome.
So I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it is visible.
Yes,
Rakesh.
Okay. Thanks. So today we are going to talk about the breach attack simulation. What is a breach attack simulation? Why it is important? How we are getting help from the simulating the multiple breach attack for our cybersecurity or business. So before starting, let's discuss about the cyber resilience posture. Many organizations who is basically concerned about the cyber security, who concerned about the data breach, or who concerned about anything related to the security, they must understand, or they always try to figure out about answer of the questions that is available in this presentation. So first of all, we have to assess ourselves that whether we are at risk or not. Then if we are at a risk, then what are the critical IP or asset or data we are having, and what is the impact in the case of that data got breached. So primarily we used to divide all these preparedness into 3 stages, I would call. So the first stage we can say that before stages. So when you say before that, it's a purely assessing our requirement, assessing our business, and prepare ourselves for the any bad thing happening in the organization. Second stage, we assume the during stage, that is a stage where the attackers are trying to get inside our network and they try to steal our important data within that. And last one is that is purely once the attacker gets successful, what is the impact and how we are going to recover the things. So all the cyber security design or anything related to that is basically based on these 3 key principles, that is stage before, during, and the after. In these stages, we assess, we prepare ourselves, then we detect the attacker's activity, try to prevent it, and if they got successful, then we analyze the loss, and based on that, we prepare our response to the things. So how we prepare ourselves? This is the current approach most of the organization use to adopt. So they do the schedule-based assessment of cyber security, and they try to figure out the gap, or they're trying to figure out the risk that their entire network is there. So the popular mechanism or method is available that they do the schedule-based vulnerability assessment, and they highlight the assessment in the terms of, or they categorize the assessment as a low, high, or medium kind of things. And based on that, they do the pen testing to test whether this vulnerability assessment is properly handled, patched, and secure or not. But you know that when you are doing the vulnerability assessment based on the certain period, like weekly or fortnightly or monthly, there is a gap window. So assuming that once your schedule is executed, and after that schedule certain kind of vulnerability develop, then you are allowing this attacker to live in your network for that specific period, or I would say that the next cycle. So how we are going to overcome these things, we'll see. Although we are keeping all the measures, we are trying our best to secure our network, our business. Still, these are the challenges we always have. Every organization have multiple solutions from the multiple vendors. Then we have a very limited resource to handle all these solutions. On top of that, we also assuming that all these different OEM solutions will act as a virtual integrated solution. And then incident generated by all these solutions are huge in terms of handling the incident. At the same time, the threats are always evolving. The attackers are always one step ahead compared to the security defense. And we are also facing the risk of ransomware attack. So how we are going to handle these things? This is very tough because we know that our staff is limited. The misconfiguration chances is always there. Point solution cannot integrate or cannot share the data with each other so that we can correlate the things. And also we don't know about the latest threat. And the last and the biggest pain for every organization is that since alerts are in the very huge numbers, like 100,000 kind of things. So how we are going to respond these alerts in a timely manner? These are the challenges always there for all the organizations. So how we can mitigate the solution, this risk, or how we can take care of this risk? So answer is we have to think like the enemy. So we have to get into the mindset of attacker who is trying to get inside our network. We have to think like those people only. So we have to understand who are the people behind that. We have to understand what are the tools they're using to get inside the network, and what is the technique they are using to get inside our network. So how we will overcome? So apart from the typical or traditional assessment tool, we have to include the new security practice called breach attack simulation in our network. So this tool is very effective. It's help you in terms of proactively assess your all the risk within the network, and it will help you to address the security risk. So let's talk about the breach attack simulation. What exactly breach attack simulation is and what it does. So basically, it's a practice or it's an approach that help any organization to proactively detect the threats that is hitting to our network, and it will alert in the real-time scenario so that a security team, a SOC team, or incident response team can act upon this, and they will help organization to mitigate the risk before the damage has been done. So regular breach attack is a kind of continuous assessment of your network 24/7 windows with the help of some artificial intelligence and machine learning technology will give all these issues related to threats and insight about that. So we'll talk about the best feature. So when you talk about simulation of threats, what type of threat we should consider for simulating these threats using the breach attack solution. So whenever you are designing any solution, we have to consider all the three vectors that can be available for external world, be it a network that include your all the network related solutions as well as your application related. On top of that, email channel you have to consider, you have to think about their security part as well as your east-west traffic, that is nothing but a endpoint security. So you have to simulate based on your application requirement. That includes not only limited to the West Top 10, it's also should goes beyond that, like protecting your web application, protecting your middleware, protecting your databases, and then the API that communicating between all these modules, then runtime application security protection. All these things need to be simulated so that you come to know that where is the gap, where is the security risk. Simply you have to define your parameter, and based on that parameter you have to select the simulation capability, and you have to simulate the things also. Then you have to consider email as a serious gateway, or you can say a serious backdoor that can allow a particular attacker easily to have footprint in your network. So all the policy related to the email security, email handling must be considered while simulating the things. Then the integration part is one of the key aspects, like whatever the attack tool you are looking for, or whatever the breach attack simulation concept you are looking to go for, it must have the capability to integrate with your all the popular email solution and all those things. Similarly, MITRE attack is one of the key technique and tactics tool that guide you to handle this kind of zero-day attack part. So you have to choose a solution wisely who can help in terms of integrating or following the MITRE attack guidelines to eliminate the attack also. And last one, that you have to also consider the email security controls that will be used for the simulation part. And for integrating with all these tools with your SOC kind of environment, it should support wide range of integration with the SIEM solution, with the SOC, or with the XDR, and or any other things also. So APT solution or simulation, this is a very key important to detect a zero-day attack. So you have to consider this simulation very seriously by considering all these three vector, web, email, as well as your endpoint also. We heard about in 2020 the SolarWind Orion exploitation done by the Russian agency called APT29 group. So it's very important for us to understand the tools, technique, as well as the people behind it who is doing the attack on the network also. So APT simulation will help you in terms of detecting the advanced persistence attack that is residing in the network, and that also called as a zero-day attack part. Also, our approach must be not depend on the manual. It should be automated so that we come to know very fast. Our incident response should be in the real time kind of things. So whenever you are doing the simulation part, breach attack or breach automation tool will help you to automate the simulation for the threats. So your breach attack simulation solutions should also help you to provide the real-time insight, like what exactly going on within your network, similar to the SOC dashboard or something like that. So you have to create a multiple resources, multiple points who can integrate with the various solution, as well as who can take the logs, correlate the things, and provide the complete insight for your network team, your security team, your any other responsible team who is handling your security before damage is getting done. Then next thing is that when you are choosing any breach simulation tool, it should be flexible enough to integrate with any kind of infrastructure, whether a customer is using on-prem solution or customer is using a cloud-based solution, be it a public cloud or a private cloud, or it may be a mixture of hybrid also. So what should be the approach? Our approach must be that we have to measure our all the risk first. We have to measure all the devices, their usability, their functionality, their features, and based on that we have to optimize, we have to fine tune, and then we have to monitor 24/7 to get the desired outcome. So we have to very closely understand the detection technology, the blocking mechanism, the blocking process, and all those things, the integration part, then the rationalized investment, like whatever the tool we are selecting should complement our business, our investment, and also improve our security. And we have to see the ROI of the tool. So there are the few options while you can choose a tool, like what are the deployment mechanism available for any breach attack simulation tool. So these are the three popular method available. So one is that agent based vulnerability scanning or simulation part. So you will have the agent that will sit on the different core of your network, and you can do the scanning, you can do the simulation. Then the second is the black box multi-vector testing, that is similar to the black box or gray box, as well as the white box testing. And third one is the malicious traffic based testing. So these are the three popular mechanisms available for deploying this breach attack simulation tool. So in agent based, we install the agent on the target machine, and we try to simulate the attack from the outside as well as the inside, and we can get the desired result. If any vulnerabilities exist, then it can be easily notified, and that can be fixed using the certain kind of patching solution or virtual patching solutions. In the black box multi-vector testing, like we don't know anything about the application, so we launch all the attacks, all the simulation that possible using this tool, as well as that complement our business also. And we do the correlating things and figuring out that what kind of vulnerability exists on the application itself. Then the malicious traffic based testing, like we try to induct certain kind of live malicious traffic, or we also follow the 7 stages of Lockheed Martin cyber attack kill chain, like we try to inject a particular file through the web link or as an email attachment, and we try to see the impact of the file on the target machine, whether we are able to successful by putting the dropper files to the target machine and see the impact of the file, whether it's able to establish a command and control or not. So this is the use case, like for the email attack simulation. So you can position your simulator at anywhere, either it's on-prem simulator or it may be a cloud-based simulation, from where you can send a mail and then this mail will hit to your email security. It may be a cloud-based email security, or it may be on-prem cloud security. In this example, I have taken Office 365 integration because most of these days, majority of people is using Office 365 email security solution. So it will hit your email security solution, and there it will see the impact whether this email security solution is capable enough to detect those kind of attack or not. Then finally, we will also have end-to-end mapping, like putting an agent on the SMTP relay server after the Office 365, and all these end-to-end mapping attacks will be available using the threat simulator screen or console also. The next example, we can see that we can launch a web top 10 best exploit simulator using a browser sitting outside to the website, and the inspection will be done. So web sitting in between will inspect the things, and once we'll able to get inside using the simulator, then we have to fix the things, or if our web is protecting the things, then it's a win-win situation for us. Then this is a use case of endpoint where we are trying to inject a malicious file to the endpoint machine. So in this example, you can see that we are trying to send a Word file or Excel file that will have the active component embedded in this. And the moment a user try to open this attachment, it will get exploited. Dropper will be installed on the system, and the system will be command and control. So simulation can be done in the exact way, and we have to make sure that this attack should not cut successful. The next priority, we have to take care of our endpoint security also. That should be compatible with all the leading operating system, whether it's a desktop edition of Microsoft Windows, or it's a server edition of Microsoft Windows, or even Mac, Linux, as well as the older version of the operating system also. Similarly, we have to consider the infrastructure improvement by including the EDR solution like Trellix or SentinelOne. Then our solution must be compatible for on hybrid environment, whether it's on-prem or it's a cloud-based solution. Then the few tools also will be there, like we have to introduce the explicit proxy, as well as the integration with the MITRE ATT&CK heat map. And you can also do the custom assessment, or you can design a custom kill chain. And also you have to follow and do the simulation related to the SOC 2 compliance or multi-user enhancement, as well as multi-tenancy environment also. The report of breach attack simulator tool should cover these kind of exemplary report, like it should have the executive report as well as a detailed report about the complete attack, threat vectors, exploitation, and all those things, as well as your tool should also suggest the remediation part of also. Then drift analysis report also, like where we are there earlier and what exactly going on, what are the things that we notice in early assessment, whether it's got fixed or not. And then you can also schedule the report so that you must have this reporting across the window, and the tool should have the capability also to share the report over email also. So I'm done from my side. If you have any question, I can answer.
I will right now like to move to our next section, that is on fireside chat between me, of course, and Mitish Chitnavis, CTO iValue InfoSolutions Pvt Limited, and Shrikanta Prasad. He's a senior sales director from Arete. Welcome, Mitish and Shrikanta.
Thank
I
you,
will like
Gaurav.
to, if you can switch on your videos and mic, let's.
Yeah, hi, Gaurav.
Hey, hi, Mitish. Okay. So, Shrikanta, I don't know if I'm not able to see you. If
I've done the video. You're able to hear me, right?
yeah, I can hear you.
turn on the video. Let's see. I will do troubleshooting. We'll carry on.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So I think Mitish, you have seen Rakesh has actually covered a lot on that perspective. So from the breach attack simulation, so my to start with my question, or I will like to understand that there are like many questions coming in from IoT, OT, ransomware, patch management, a lot of things. So how do organization ensure realistic simulation of breach attack scenario? That how we say that, okay, these are actually real and required for my environment, and this works and safeguard it.
So basically, let's take a step back. Why are we talking about breach attack simulation? I think it is important for us to understand that the basics of security and why security gaps persist in a network. Okay. The first simple example would be improper assessment of security risk. When we look at can we find out what the security risk today exists within the network, within the infrastructure, whether it is SaaS applications, or whether it is cloud, or whether it's on-prem. So what we see is that there's some improper assessments which are carried out, and that creates a security risk within an organization. Number two is new security threats as they keep coming. As Rakesh said that the thieves are more advanced and they are one level ahead of us. The second one is the third one, I should say, is insufficient funding for security. While we have everything implemented, there's so many tools that we can implement and they are available today. We keep implementing those tools. And the fourth one is the inadequate availability or skill gap that we have in security today. So typically, if we categorize, these are the four things. But the most important thing that comes into picture is after having all these tools, everything in place, how do we test our defenses? Have we really mitigated? Are we ahead of time? Are we ahead of the thief or adversaries that we have today? So we have to start thinking, as a thief, and start implementing controls for these thieves, right? Who are trying to attack our network, take our data, maybe ask for ransom, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
testing defense is always going to be what I call is it's going to be near to real time when we look at the tools, because it's already integrated. There are frameworks now available. We know how the APT3, 29, and all of those are actually penetrating the networks and taking it. So what we know, the platform works almost 99% the same way. Any breach attack simulation platform, it will cover 99% of what we know. What we don't know is where the risk exists, and that is where the manual testing, depending on your attack surface, comes into picture.
Okay, sure. And I think more we will make it like a realistic thing, and more the role of incident planning comes in play, where I think the expertise of Shrikant, I will like to engage. Shrikant, so if you can actually briefly elaborate, what will be the role of incident response planning in a breach attack simulation? I think you are doing a great work in this particular area. So I would like to, you to pitch in here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gaurav, and thanks, Mitish, for setting up the stage there. So, if you see all the security investments that a customer does is in anticipation of the D-Day, right? So we have right from a basic firewall to NJ-IPS, EDR, you name it, right? Including BAS, which is the latest and greatest, is to ensure that we have covered all our bases and we are prepared for an eventuality. And the eventuality strikes, how well prepared we are, how well we are aware of our weaknesses, how resilient we are in our responses will determine how successfully we are able to come out of the situation. Like, John Chambers very famously said that the question is not if, the question is when somebody is going to be breached. So as mature security practitioners, we should assume that we will be under attack anytime, right? And technology will help us take so far in terms of automation, in terms of reduction of false positives and noises. But ultimately, in security, the finger on the trigger is by the human only. Without human intervention, without human, a wrapper or overlay, security will not be effective. So that's where incident response planning and testing of these plans becomes extremely critical. And as Rakesh was telling, and even Mitish, the best way is to ensure that when we do a BAS based assessment, we should also include how did our response mechanism kick in. How did our detection mechanism kick in? Like, were we able to detect it at stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or we were not able to detect it at all? When we started detecting, did the incident response plan, if we have one, did it come in, right? And were we able to intervene and stop more spread of that attack, or were we able to or did it completely bypass it? So having an incident response plan and doing the BAS kind of assessment will not only help us give do a reality check in terms of our security posture, but also will help us understand how resilient is our response mechanism in terms of, did the teams kick in, did they behave and respond as per the plan, right? And what was the, like, I saw a question, MTTR and MTTD, right? So were these within the defined metrics of our response plans? So that's very important. And as I said earlier, the technologies will definitely help us to show us the mirror on our preparedness. But we should be having and working against a plan to ensure that in case of an eventuality and at day zero, hits us, we will be able to respond quickly. Just like in a physical ailment scenario, we have a golden hour, right? If there's a heart attack, we have a golden hour, the time, the first 60, 90 minutes, right? It will
Yeah.
either make or break the whole case. Similarly, here in a cyber incident, the golden hour is very, very critical. If we are able to detect and respond effectively, the incident can be mitigated with very, very minimal loss. The more time the threat actor is inside our network, the potential to a very high damage to businesses is quite high.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point, Shrikant. You mentioned the golden hour is critical, and also breach attack simulation. We are trying to prepare for the next stage, right? That in case of real, that golden hour, we actually doing the what we actually require to do, right? So while we are doing this simulation, how to measure the effectiveness that this will actually work in the real scenario? So that effectiveness part is quite critical. And maybe after you, Mitish, I will have the same, on this question. I will have to like your view as well. So Shrikant, you can go first. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple of things. One, the very basic and critical metrics are mean time to detect, mean time to respond, right?
Yeah.
There are other complex metrics, but we need to start with this. Let's say as a part of the flow of BAS assessment, there is a firewall breach, or there is a bypass of one of the IPS rules, or there is a trigger on our EDR system. Now, how quickly was the monitoring team able to detect it, right?
Yeah.
From the time of the incident to the time of the detection. That's the mean time to detect, right? So, and then, from the time of detection to time of response. Once the detection happens, like let's say if there is a basic level of SOC monitoring, already in place, then we'll be having the logs coming in from these different log sources. Now, what did the monitoring team, how did they ingest this information? Did they investigate and escalate it, or was it just put out as an alert, right? And that led to a subsequent a more complex compromises. So there are a whole lot of metrics. While the couple of metrics that I said was universal, but each organization will have their own, can be having their own set of metrics, especially on how effective is my detection and how quick and effective is my response to that, alerts that's coming out. So it can be an individual metrics, it can be metrics as a function, right? For a complete SOC function or vulnerability management function. So there are host of metrics that can be developed. I mean, iValue and Arete, we have definitely those capabilities and have helped customers mature. So for you to go on the maturity curve, you should first start measuring. Without measurement, there is no growth, there is no maturity, right? So metrics will help us measure where we stand and also give us, achievable goals in the near and long-term future to reach those, goals.
Sure. Thanks, Shrikant. I think, Jarot, it's answered your question as well, where you were asking about mean time to detect and mean time to respond as well. So, Mitish, your point of view on the same.
So let's look at how we are today operating. We are actually operating in a real-time world. That means we always have pressure. We always want to deliver it quickly to market. That means business teams are pushing the development team from an application standpoint and release of a new product and so on and so forth, right? So they all want it so quickly and they want to release it out because business takes precedence. We are, as security practitioners, we are enablers. We are trying to manage always the business and we are trying to actually balance between the business requirements and what we and the security controls, right? And that's always the case. So in this scenario, what happens is BAS comes into picture because we don't have time. We have to deliver to it. We have to still keep it secure. And since we are balancing it, the BAS comes into picture because now you can have, for at least for the known things, known vulnerabilities or known testings that we want to carry out, BAS comes in completely into picture because it saves time. It gives us timely results. It helps us in ensuring that they're identifying issues if there are any, and having controls properly configured around the applications, around the network, and so on and so forth, right? So that's where BAS actually comes into picture. Would it be a full-fledged solution? The answer is for the known, yes. For unknown, we are always dealing with unknown, right? So once this is done, then the second part comes into picture, as what Shrikant said, is readiness of staff. I think the readiness of staff is not only the security staff, it's also everybody who's within the organization who's accessing and having information. We talk about cybersecurity awareness, but email as a vector comes in. We people unknowingly click it. It's spear phishing or whatever phishing we want to call. But at a point in time, these defenses we need to test these defenses time and again. And that's where BAS comes into picture, so that we keep testing. We know our defenses. It's like an appraisal system for our defense, or what we call in the medical language as a preventive health checkup. It's always important to do that checkup and understand what the issues are and keep fixing them. If we don't find any issues, we are pretty comfortable with it. But at end of the day, it has to be tested. Readiness of staff has to be tested. Readiness of how do we respond to an incident at that point in time has to be tested. But it's always going to be a simulation of known things. And if we are able to cover at least 90-95% of the known things, it would be very easy from a 360-degree perspective, right? That is people, process, technology.
Sure. I think you have mentioned about the staff, you have mentioned about PPT, and also when this things, a lot of manual efforts are required in breach simulations. But you think these new age tools and these simulations are coming with artificial intelligence, machine learning as well? How you see these technologies impacting the BAS overall?
Okay, so just imagine if AI-based ransomware comes into picture, which is still not, okay, what would happen? Okay, and if AI-based ransomware is released, I think we all have to be ready, right? And that situation will come up because there will be some adversary who will write artificial intelligence, machine learning, and release a ransomware in the system, in the entire ecosystem as such. So we have to be ready, and we have to be ready. So at least the best thing that we can do is test our defenses, test our applications, continuously test. Tools help us. Tools will enable us to at least test and come up with right results, timely results, and so on and so forth.
Sure. Shrikant, you have any perspective with the incident response and overall, this BAS getting AI and ML inbuilt?
Absolutely. See, the whole BAS assessment, since we are sticking to the topic, can be made can be enriched and made more contextual with the help of integration of the threat intel. The current COVID variant is some XBB.1.2 or something, right? So threat intel gives you what is the latest variant of the malware, what are the exploits that are there, and we have our vulnerability assessment program internally that gives us our current comorbidities, if you will, in the COVID language, right? So if there is a comorbidity, the possibility of exploitation by the latest variant is very high. Simple as that, right? We've seen it from the past 2.5 years, who's been most affected by this COVID virus is the ones who had inherent vulnerabilities in the system. Well, everybody got hit. Those who were really affected were those who had these vulnerabilities, maybe sugar or BP or any heart condition, kidney condition, right? So the age-old practice of keeping your house clean in terms of having a very strong and systematic vulnerability management program, followed by a patch management program and testing or reapplying, right? That will, as Mitish said, 99% of the known cases will be taken care by them. So if you're able to add more context and intelligence and feed into the BAS assessment, the latest threat intel, and your vulnerability output, right? That makes it very contextual from a local vulnerability perspective, but gives you the global threat wrapper on top of it. So that way it is very, it makes organizations, it helps them understand exactly where do they stand on today's exploits. So it's very important that when we have such assessments, we have a 360-degree view. One view is from our internal vulnerabilities. The second view is from the external exploit capabilities, and see where we stand in between these. And I think BAS is a great program. I don't want to call it as a tool, but it's a program. It has to be run programmatically and regularly. And if you are able to have all these data points enriching the program, it will give a very more contextualized and more enriched output to the organizations.
Sure, Shrikant. Thanks for the valuable information. So, considering the time, I have last question for you because my audience is now waiting that they also want to ask a lot of questions and we also need to ask them, in Kahoot and something. So, my last question will be like, how breach attack simulation help organization to improve cybersecurity posture, and what are the advice you will like to give to the organization who are going to implement that? And so same Mitish, I would like to have your last comments on the same question. So the mainly for different range of organization have different steps, so accordingly you can advise. Yeah.
Yep, thanks. So one is about we should not look at the BAS program as a technology program. It has to be, as Mitish said, it has to be inclusive of people and process, because you have a process defined for a particular type of response or doing a particular job run. Then that process becomes the de facto standard, and the efficiency of running it becomes very high. So we need to test the BAS from a people process technology perspective and help understand, the organizations understand how well is our teams prepared. Do they have enough information disseminated to them? Are our processes being tested, right? During this eventuality or these, emergency situations? And what is our technology sprawl? Are we covered enough? Do we need additional investments, right? So there has to be a 360-degree view when we run this program, and the feedback has to be across all these three pillars of cyber response, that is people, process, technology. In terms of people, are we getting the right set of people to respond to this? Are they responding in the right time? Are we getting the right metrics captured here? At the same time, did any of the process fail, or do we lack any processes during this? Like, for example, let's say there is a successful breach when we do a simulation. Then the next step should be is as to containment, right? There has to be a containment of the particular incident. Now, there has to be a process for containment. Did the incident occur in your endpoint infrastructure or on your server infrastructure, or was it on the cloud? Depending on that, we need to see how these pillars of the infrastructure or organization, how did they respond in terms of people and process? And then the lessons learned have to be incorporated and tested again, right? So it's a continuous program. It's not just do once and forget it. Mature organizations do at least once a quarter, but at least twice a year is what I would say that people should be looking at adopting this.
Sure, thanks, Shrikant. So Mitish, your comment on this.
So I think it is important with ransomware and what we have seen in last 3 years of what has happened. There are trillions of dollars that companies have paid back. People are saying that the cybercrime would reach in $2 trillions of dollars of losses and so on and so forth. So as security practitioners, as companies, organizations that we work for, are demanding more of us being proactive. Organizations want to become proactive rather than reactive, number one. So proactive, BAS helps in making organizations more proactive. Testing, again, I keep talking of testing, but if you look at the application lifecycle management and applications that are released, whether on cloud, on-prem, whether it is SaaS or whichever model, but those have to be tested at every release because you don't know where the doors are kept open, right? So that in the application lifecycle management, it starts helping us. It's a simultaneous testing that we need to do. So why we need BAS as such? Because it first helps us to become proactive. Second, it helps us to address at least the known side of adversaries, vulnerabilities, APTs, vectors, and so on and so forth. Testing ourselves becomes absolutely important. The third most important thing is addressing the skill gap. Okay, so while we do red teaming, we have individuals who are talented, capabilities available, but they are short in number. So if we have to do continuous testing basis the release cycles of an application of network majority, nothing changes, but on the application side things change, new features get added, they are released in production, we need to test again and again. So you will end up having the fatigue which is set into the red teaming guys, that because they keep testing and at end of the day somewhere we would open that door, and we don't want. And that's where BAS comes into picture. It complements the manual testing, and that's where it also helps the organizations to become more proactive, basis their own requirement and their own infrastructure.
Sure. I think it was great talking to you, Mitish, Rakesh, Shrikant, and Nagesh for all this opportunity and trusting CXO Junction with this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It was a wonderful session. I think great Q&A, great discussion, and we will have a connect soon and shortly on the next session. Thank you.